Hey, it's Travis Johnson, your host. Welcome to the Nonprofit Architect Podcast. I'm here today with Andrea Shirey, and we're going to be covering sponsorships. Andrea, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, I'm glad that we could connect. I'm glad we could record this episode. If you've been a long time listener, this is a momentous occasion because this is episode number 40, big time. It's real now. We're not just some startup podcast. We're now in the mainstream, doing everything we can to be heard. Andrea, why don't you tell us what you do with One Nine Design?
Sure. When I have to sum it up, I really tell people that I help nonprofits use the right tools to reach more people and make a bigger impact, and try to do that without breaking the budget. I know that budgets are tight with many nonprofits. We want them to use as much of those funds that they work so hard to get towards their programs and services, and we just don't want them to have to go all in budget-wise on marketing. There are a lot of ways that I can help them learn to use the right tools, many of them free, to attract the right people to their mission so they can share their story with more people. A few of the ways that I specify with, get specific with nonprofits is helping them build websites that attract donors and volunteers. We know that all nonprofits want that. I help them communicate better through email marketing. A lot of nonprofits are hesitant to use email consistently. They're not sure what platform to use, when to send, what to send. And so I really walk clients through that process from start to finish. For some of the larger nonprofits, I help them with search engine optimization, making sure that once they have a great website filled with the right content, that people can actually find it. And lately, I've added kind of two additional areas to the plate. One being my brand new nonprofit template shop, templates designed specifically for nonprofits to save them time on a lot of the things that we know they're spending time creating and perfecting when they really need to be out fundraising, things like board report templates, social media templates. We're going to talk today about sponsorship templates, all of those kind of things. So that's in my nonprofit template shop. And then I'm also teaching nonprofits how to use Google tools to do the work they do more efficiently. And so those have been some things just added here recently. I'm basically a nonprofit exec, experienced fundraiser turned website designer. So it's kind of like getting a nonprofit consultant and marketing coach all in one when people work with me. But in all the positions that I've held, from higher ed fundraising to grassroots organizations, I just have consistently focused on the value of making a great first impression online. And I know what it's like to need an online presence that sets you apart from everyone else, because there are a million great missions out there. I've walked in their shoes as a nonprofit executive, so I know what it takes to set those record-breaking fundraising results. And I just truly love helping walk them through the process and taking that intimidation of tech out of the equation.
I mean, you weren't kidding when you said you had that intro on lockdown. That's awesome. You quickly mentioned those online templates. I know, as someone that creates content and runs podcasts and different things, when you're trying to figure out what to say or how to say it, and you're not sure what it should look like, I find as many templates online as I possibly can to give me some kind of reference point. I'm a visual person, and you're like, why are you doing a podcast? I can't see you. I'm a visual person. If I can visualize it, if I can see it, I can do it.
Yes. Yes, and so many nonprofits, they're spinning their wheels trying to recreate things that already exist, scared to copy something or take someone else's idea. And so these templates were really designed to help people who are on a budget. And what makes them different, Travis, is that there are a lot of people out there selling all kinds of templates. Especially as a business owner, I see those all the time. And, the words like hustle and all these things that they don't really fit my business. And I thought, gosh, if I was a nonprofit leader and I saw that, I would think this has nothing to do with what I'm doing. So I had this vision to create a template shop where every template came with a guide sheet that has best practices for what that particular document should be trying to accomplish. And then I've gone ahead and put in sample content in the template. And that is really what sets it apart from other template shops. So you're taking out the stress of the tech part. You can swap out the colors and the fonts and add your logo, and you can do all of that. But you already have some idea of what you should be saying in a piece like that. The easiest example would be my board report template, which is the best seller, which really surprises me. There's some others that I thought that would be much more popular, but it's always nice to be surprised too. But a board report is something that every nonprofit executive director has to learn to do, right? It's basically a requirement of the job to update the board. And as somebody who's a current and former board member, I've seen it done a few different ways, some more effective than others. And so the board report template is just a simple Google Doc, but it walks them through. There's 8 or 9 different areas and basically tells them, okay, in this section, this is really what your board needs to know. It keeps it high level enough so that the board's not in the weeds, but it gives them enough information that there's a purpose to sharing that. It's not just gosh, we've been busy for the past month and here are all the things we've been doing, because as board members, we know you're busy, right? We know it's hard work to run the nonprofit. We want to know those high level facts that give us the right information. So anyway, that's what kind of makes the nonprofit template shop stand apart is that best practices guide, and that they have sample content right in every template.
See, and I love how it focuses on that high level vision as a former board member myself, and then as someone in the military that briefs the high level, the high echelon about what they need to know. We've taken those briefs that I've given and we've changed them and modified them and ensured that we had the highest level points and maybe a fun fact or a point of interest in each of those sections without going too in the weeds, because they can't ask you questions and get in your Kool-Aid or your Cheerios if you're not giving them all those little things to fuss over. And if they
Absolutely.
need them, they'll ask for them, but I'm not going to offer that stuff up front and let them toy around with some innate detail that means nothing, that's not going to affect their decisions or have them really provide any valuable input at all. I don't need them spending 30 minutes on something like on a typo of some section of something that they don't even need. So I'm not a fan of wasting anyone else's time, and I really hate when people waste my time. I'm perfectly capable of wasting my own time. Thank you very much.
Yeah, let me give you, I'll just kind of throw this out there to pique some curiosity if those are wondering what's in this board report template. I'll give away a couple of my secrets just to your listeners, I guess. And these are the 2 things that I get the most comments back on people who have purchased a template. By the way, it's only $9. I'm not becoming a millionaire off this template. So it's a very, very low price point product. But 2 things that I think are key in that board report, and they hinge, and this is a kicker for a lot of, I think, EDs out there. You've got to send the board report in advance, at least 3 to 5 days, if not more. Otherwise, you're basically setting yourself up for a rough meeting, because you're going to send it to board members who are busy at work, maybe haven't even looked at the report by the time they get to the meeting. And then when you share that report, they're basically sitting at the table reading the report instead of you giving them additional information. So I always like to include that sort of disclaimer. It really needs to be sent at least a week in advance. But the 2 of the items that are in this template, one is a question to ponder. And so I think this really gets your board members a little more invested. It's something for bigger picture consideration. It keeps your nonprofit on their mind, helps them get in that meeting space. I would really, give an example, something like, here's what we want you to be thinking about for this, July meeting. We're facing a shortfall of $5,000 in funding to meet our planned budget goals. We need to decide if we want to reduce expenses or we want to be creative in how we're making up the lost revenue. it's a question for them to really get in that space. And it reminds them that their role is not to decide, do we take the 5K online or not? That's an operation decision. Their decision as a board is, how do we handle the shortfall? What is our overall big picture strategy that's going to move our nonprofit forward and be the right decision for us long term? How we get there in the specifics is not a board meeting discussion, in my opinion. Some boards may operate differently, of course, but by posing this question a week in advance, you really force your board members to get in that headspace and be thinking about that. And then when you get to your board meeting, instead of you again are going to pose the question during the meeting, but ideally they've had a week to think it through. Maybe bounce the idea off some other nonprofit board members that they know. Maybe do a little bit of research. I know I'm getting wild and crazy here for a board member, but if you don't send this in advance, you're basically going to get some blank stares. They don't know. They just came from work. They've got 10 things on their mind. They didn't have a chance to get in that meeting headspace. And the other little secret tip I have for making the board meetings more engaging and really getting board members to the next level is telling board members in advance the decisions they're going to be asked to make. Because as a board member, I have been in that situation where you show up, you're going down through the agenda, and all of a sudden I have to vote on something that I'm hearing about for the very first time. I may or may not have the information I need to make the best decision. And I appreciate the opportunity to know in advance, hey, you're going to be asked at the meeting to approve this purchase of X dollars for this reason. Here, as a reminder, here's where we are budget to date. Here are our goals. Here's where we are in our strategic plan. This doesn't need to be things like, hey, you're going to be asked to vote on the minutes. We know we're going to have to approve the last meeting's minutes or the financial reports, those kind of things. I'm talking about if you have something that's not a regular approval process in your meetings, I think it does you a big disservice to spring that on board members at the time. They'll vote, they'll make a decision, but they may not have all the information they need to make the best decision. So those are just two of the little secret things in the board report template that I like to walk people through.
And see, I'm a qualified naval planner, and these are some of the two things that we include in all of our stuff as well.
Oh, good to hear.
When we set a read ahead, we tell them like what's going to be happening, right? So they have that mindset to get into. They have the whole presentation. And on the first slide, it's the things that we're going to need you to approve at this juncture, right? There's, depending on how you do it, there's several different levels of meetings in the planning process. But like, hey, this is the 2 or 3 big things of this presentation that I need you to make a decision on, right? So feedback required, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, well, that's really cool. And I definitely, I love the templates, and I love what you're doing with the board report and the different questions. But we came today to talk about sponsorships, and this is perfect because if you're the first time listener here, what we did last week was talk to Jeff Riley, and he provided a sponsorship that he uses, an actual one that he sends out for his car shows. And what you're going to get with Andrea is a little bit different, because you're going to see kind of the behind the scenes, how you structure and how you create and decide on the things that you're going to put in your sponsorship package. So between the 2 templates, you're going to have everything you need to be successful and go forth and work with your sponsorships.
Yeah, I think the timing of this was great. We'll just say you planned it that way.
Oh yeah, totally planned it.
We had that all worked out. But it does bring up a good point in that obviously there is no one right way to do this. As much as we try as businesses that serve the nonprofit population, we try to come up with strategies that are going to help as many people as possible. And I haven't had a chance to see Jeff's letter yet. I'm definitely going to take a look though. I'm sure I'll learn something from that as well. But what I was seeing, especially here in the last several months as we've been in the midst of this coronavirus crisis, is that we have nonprofits just wondering how in the world they're going to meet their budget goals, right? They've canceled major events. There's no clear path to rescheduling them, or they've moved them online and they're panicking, thinking, oh my gosh, how are we going to give, a sponsorship value to a company when we don't have people in the room? And as I just continuously kept getting those questions, of course, I started walking some clients through the process, and we're going to just kind of go over it in high level detail today. And then I'll let you tell the listeners a little later on how they can snag a free template to help walk them through this process too. But really just to dive in, what we normally see nonprofits doing is, instead of, we see them blindly sending out emails, right? We want to promise their logo anywhere and everywhere they can think of. And we just need the money, right? We're desperate. So-and-so lumber company, we're putting this event online. Will you be a sponsor? And on the other end of this, as a business owner who's received pitches like this, I'm left wondering, do people that support my business go to this event? What are my options? I'm not necessarily consumed with the recognition for my company, but I do want to know that it's a value to me as well. And what we see nonprofits doing is focusing on them, right? They launch into all the reasons their nonprofit is great. And man, do we have great nonprofits in this country, all over the place, right? Unfortunately, that's not the thing that sets you apart. Your mission might be the best mission out there. You might have impacted hundreds of thousands of people, but if you're not relating that to the company you're asking, your message is going to fall flat. So I kind of look at it in three ways. I look at the questions you should ask yourself before you ever ask a company to be a sponsor. I help people determine what to offer as a sponsorship benefit or perk, which has changed and looks a little different. And then the kicker, what a lot of people forget and do not do, which costs them money in the future, is how to communicate after the event. Because if we do that piece correctly, the next time your event rolls around, your pitch becomes pretty much a follow-up. It's no more a question of, will you sponsor this event again? But, hey, remember how great this was last year? You're in, right? It just makes your job so much easier. Kind of gets you off that wheel every year. So that's kind of the process that I walk people through.
That's good. And do you recommend that if you have one annual event, do you recommend continued conversation with sponsors from previous events?
I do. And I think there's two popular models out there. One would be, like I said before, doing a really great job the first time, right? Going through that process, start to finish, including the follow-up after the event. That way, when you return the following year, again, your pitch is much, much easier, and you have some really great data to use in that pitch. I've also seen many nonprofits moving to more of an ongoing partnership model. Our local United Way here in the Mid-Ohio Valley, they use this model really successfully. And at the beginning of their campaign year, they basically present a partnership proposal. And instead of seeking corporate sponsors for each individual event throughout the year, that list of corporate partners essentially underwrite the events for the year, and they get all of the perks at all of the events. So this really reduces the time spent in seeking sponsorships, because they're just going through that process one time. Now, this works obviously better with people who, with companies who have a higher budget, who can invest a little more because they're basically getting that exposure for an entire campaign year. But I have seen that model be successful with smaller nonprofits as well. And if you only have maybe 2 or 3 events a year, that might be an easy way to cut down on the need for ongoing sponsors and going back to the same people over and over again. The one piece I think that misses is catering the event audience to the sponsor. And so I think you have to do a cost benefit analysis there and decide, which is a better fit for you.
That's cool. It sounds like you can pitch them the package of events and something like buy 3 sponsorships, get the fourth one free, uh, gets people in and gets them involved. And again, big fan of not wasting time or spinning my wheels. So if I can talk to them once, get them on board for 3 or 4 events, and ensure this is my number one thing when I talk to people, when I interact, and if you've interacted with me before, this is true, is to provide real legitimate value. Provide value and know that the relationship with you is going to be valuable to all parties involved. And it's not about me, not about mine. It's not about, take, take, take. It's about give, give, give. And when we're all in this giving mode, in this giving mood, everything is just so much easier. But we've talked about, you've touched on sponsorships and partnerships. And you know me, I'm all about the ships, sponsorships, partnerships, relationships, friendships, memberships, mentorship, stewardship, leadership, all the ships. Uh,
Love it.
love them all so much. We are relational beings, and everything that we do and everything that we are has to do with the relationships that we have. Show me your network, I'll show you your net worth. It's the relationships that we build. It's not how many cards you hand out. Now we've spoke about this on a few other shows. How do you, as a new nonprofit, get your name out there? And one of the things we do is you just go out and meet the neighbors. You go to every business in a mile radius or in a part of town that matters, and you say, "Hey, I'm Travis. I'm new to the area. This is what I do. How can I provide you value?" And you're going to get a lot of confused looks because no one else gets their needs put first. How many networking events do you go to and people just talk about themselves and they don't care about the other person? Translate that into donor relations. How many people are talking and caring about what the donor is, who they are, what they do, and what their passion is? If you flip the script and you put them first and all about them, talk about the benefits of what you do, right? Sprinkle that in there. But if you focus on them, it's going to be much easier to get them on board with whatever they're doing. And maybe you won't ever do anything together, but it might lead to another contact, or at least good words being said about you around town, right?
Absolutely. And I think you hit on something that really drives, even especially in this sponsorship model, drives at home. Or there's 2 things I think you could incorporate in those early conversations. Again, we're not blindly sending emails asking for sponsors, but there are 2 questions you could ask a local business before you need the money. not the day before. Let's not be that obvious, but when you've kind of build this into your calendar. One is show up at their local business and find out who their audience is. What kind of people shop there? Who is their ideal customer? We talk a lot in the nonprofit world about our ideal donor, our ideal board member, or our ideal volunteer, but to the business, it's their ideal customer. And the reason we want to know that information is because we need to, when it's time to solicit the sponsorship for the event, we need to tie those 2 pieces together. We need to say, okay, Travis, I know that your audience is runners, right? I know that you have a running clothing store. You sell walking shoes, you sell all these, this gear. That is your audience. I've learned that by coming to your shop, seeing where you advertise, following you on Facebook or wherever you're active on social media, and getting an idea of who your customer is, so that when I am holding my 5K event, we become partners who are serving the exact same audience, because those are your customers, are the people coming to my event. So this is no longer about you helping me with my budget. I'm now giving you an opportunity to reach your people at my event. it's a unique opportunity for them. And it's how we, like you said, we flip the script, we position it a little bit differently. We don't go in saying, oh my gosh, we're doing such good work helping mothers or children or families. And all that good work is happening, but that's not necessarily what we want to lead with. These are business owners we're talking to, so we need to speak their language. We need to talk to them in a way that's going to resonate with them. The other sort of piece I like to gather before the sponsorship is to find out where they advertise. And this is going to overlap a little bit with that research. And you say, why do we care where they advertise? Because here's what nonprofits don't do. I'm giving you all my secrets today. I'm like, oh, I should not be giving this away. I charge people for this information. That's okay. When you know where they advertise, that's where you're going to thank them when the event is over. Because it does.
Well, you can't just gloss over that. You cannot just gloss over that and go on to the next thing.
That's right. That's right. I wish you listeners could see Travis's face when I said this. People are missing this. This is a secret. So here's what we do as nonprofits, right? We say, we're going to thank you on our social media. We're going to thank you on our website. That's great. I recommend we do that. But if you really want to put yourself apart, you're going to find out where they advertise, which means they think their customers are reading that information. And you're going to thank them in that area, in that newspaper, in that magazine. And that takes some work. But if you'll build that into your budget, we budget all of this work for pre-event advertising, but we don't budget for post-event advertising. That's a big miss in my book. And so if you find out where they advertise, and then it can be very small. I'm not talking about spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars on ads, but if you can thank them in the area where their people hang out, now their people see how generous they are. That's what they really wanted to begin with. We love to tell people we're going to put their logo places, and companies do value that recognition. But what they really want is for someone to see that they're generous, for someone to see that they're charitable, that they support their local community, because that's what resonates with customers. And so if you can get that little piece of intel before the event, you don't tell them you're going to do this. You spring this over, on them. You do that nice event follow-up. And then, you could give them a heads up. You could say, hey, did you catch the newspaper on Sunday? Or if you don't hear back from them, let them know that it was in there, but somebody's going to tell them. So that's my secret. You say thank you where their people are hanging out, not where yours are.
See, I think this completely changes the game for all that you do. Think about all the times that I've said I'm awesome on my show. You don't care that I think that I'm awesome. No one cares whether I say how good I am or not. But if someone else comes to you and say, oh, that Travis, he really knows his stuff. He can really help you with your mindset. He teaches the things that you don't know how to do. He sets up that monthly giving and shows you how to unload your workload, get the monthly gifts coming in so you can focus on serving your population. Like if someone else tells you that about me, you're
Right.
sold. If I say that about me, no one cares. No one even listens. It's no big deal.
Right. And we've all seen the companies that go on and on about how generous they are, and they want the photo op every time they donate to the soup kitchen and this and that. And there's nothing wrong with that. They are doing good work, but it means so much more to their audience when it's coming from the recipient. And it's something that's really relatively easy for the nonprofit to do. It's just a little bit of legwork up front and saving just a couple $100s on the back end for those thank you ads. And when you pair that with, we'll come to that in a second. We want to pair that with what we say after the event is over. But touching on the sponsorship or perks of the event, we talked about that a few minutes ago, how it is sometimes hard to come up with, how do we entice these sponsors when our event is virtual? And I think many of the same perks that we used with in-person events can still carry over. Because you're going to go through my process of getting the data up front. That's going to include some website analytics, some social media reach and engagement. I see a lot of people miss that part. They will tell people they have 5,000 likes on Facebook. While that's a great milestone, what really matters is the engagement. So how we want to make sure that we're looking at those insights, and all of that is free information we can get on the backside of Facebook as Facebook page owners. The other number, if it's positive, would be email list subscribers. We want to have that in our back pocket, because one of the perks I think is great is to not just include so what I do, if I back up a second here, I try to think about what everyone else is offering, and then how can I step that up a notch? How can I take that one step further to go above and beyond? So something I see and that I've gotten pitched many times is, hey, in every email we send about the event to our list of, say, 5,000 people, we're going to include your logo at the bottom. Great. That's a nice little perk. People are going to see my logo. What I like to do and encourage nonprofits to do is take that one step forward. And you can do this really easily on your sponsorship form when you're getting the commitment, is ask the company to give you 2 or 3 sentences about what they do, why they do it, why it matters, something that kind of gives you an insight into who they are. And then when the nonprofit is pitching the sponsorship, you can say, we're going to include your logo in all of our emails, but we're also going to include a short description about your company and link over to your website. That's no harder for me to do as a nonprofit. I've already got my email platform set up. Instead of dropping just the logos in at the bottom of the email, I'm just going to drop in a sentence or two that they have provided for me about the company as well. So now we're not just putting the logo out there, we're telling people who you are. It gives them some editorial content, frankly, along with their branding. They want that, right? They pay good money for that in the press. We're giving it to them for free. I also think it's nice if you can feature one sponsor per email. So we've probably all received those emails that have a long list of logos at the bottom that kind of get lost. If you can kind of feature one sponsor or partner per email, I think that really gives them some more prominent exposure. And then you could go one step further, let them know how many clicks did we get in that email, how many people went over to their website.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things that are going to set you apart.
I don't even know how you're going to stay in business after this. You're just giving away all of your secrets here on my show live. And I know I appreciate it. My listeners appreciate it. You're going to have contact details at the end of this. Go talk to Andrea and see if it's this good up front. Imagine all the great stuff she's holding back. Just absolutely amazing. So what might this look like during an event? If you are doing something like a Zoom conference and you might be sharing your screen and you have prepared statements and prepared notes, you can give people a full-blown, full screen ad of their business. Tell people up front that we're going to be sharing our sponsors and the great things that they're doing. You give them 10 to 20 seconds worth of talk time, or you're reading a prepared script. Tell the people up front, take a screenshot of this, visit our sponsors. They really aren't just helping pay the bills. They are really active and they really care about what it is that we're doing. And giving them value is a great way to make sure that they have you in mind for next year or for other collaborations and other projects. It's not just sponsoring an event. It can go much further and much deeper. You can have partnerships where they agree to change their credit card processing over to a friend of mine, Isaac Belden at 12B Gives. He'll give them a cut rate on every swipe, and a portion of every swipe can go to your organization, but not if you don't first build that relationship first.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's key, because we can promise all of these nice virtual perks, but if we haven't done the research up front to make sure that's a good fit for them, for example, if we have a company who doesn't have an online presence, right, and their customers really aren't online, and I'm sure there are some cases, I can't think of one that comes to mind, but then us promising all of these things, it's just not going to go very far. It's not going to resonate with them. But on the other hand, if we know somebody who's really stepped up their online presence, and maybe they were a physical store that's now offering online shopping, they want that online exposure. There's a great tool called StreamYard, all one word, StreamYard, and it works in conjunction with Facebook Live. It's a third-party tool, but it's really great. It allows you to showcase sponsors very prominently on the screen. You can pick which area of the screen that you want to put their logo. You can rotate those through. That's a really great tool that I recommend for anybody who's taking an event completely digital. You can use a virtual Zoom background and add your logo to it. And so you just like adding your own logo to it, you can add the company's logo to the Zoom background as well.
So that could be in the background the entire time you're speaking.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you could do that with maybe your highest level sponsorship. For example, if I'm hosting a webinar and it's sponsored by someone, then I can just, instead of putting my own logo on the screen, I can put theirs on and can stay there the entire time.
Well, you mentioned that you could have stuff like scrolling on the bottom. Is that what you said?
With StreamYard, you can. It will automatically rotate the sponsor logos that you upload to the platform. Really easy to use. I'll include a link on my website that we're going to send people to. I'll include a link to StreamYard there so they can check that out as well. I don't want to forget to mention something my client did that I thought was brilliant as well. Not my idea, but now it's my idea. Now I'm just sharing it with everyone. If you're doing a Facebook Live event, even in conjunction with StreamYard, offer your sponsors a call to action in the comments, because that comment feed is scrolling, right? You're asking for input, people are voting, you're doing polls. You can also do this in a Zoom chat format as well. But go ahead and have that call to action typed out with a link to wherever they want you to send folks. Make sure you check that link out ahead of time, but you can drop that in the comments as sort of a paid comment feature. It's a little bit manual. It'd be great if you had two people kind of running the event, one running the comments while you're running the event, but those get really high visual cues from folks who are watching those chat boxes. So I thought that was a really creative way to offer the sponsor something that, people are bound, I'm sure, to click on and head over and see what that call to action is all about. That could even be a limited time promo code, those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
You can also, I've had some people say, oh my gosh, we always do gift bags, right, for our attendees, and that's where we put all our sponsor swag, and now we can't do that. Enter virtual gift bags. Load up, get your sponsors to offer a promo code, a coupon, a gift card, and then drop those links in one nicely packaged email and send that out to your attendees after the event. There's your virtual gift bag, still giving your sponsors all the visibility. Your event attendees are still getting that nice swag, albeit just virtual these days. So it doesn't have to be the end of sponsorships just because we're taking things online.
Look, I have no problem getting an Amazon gift card in my email. I don't feel bad one bit. Like,
No.
why would that change how I feel about a gift bag? I don't have something
Absolutely.
maybe, but of all the things, that's not something that I really, really have to have. Space is limited, right? But I wanted to mention one more thing on this streamline. I'm a visual guy, and I'm trying to picture what this might look like. You might have a sponsor's logo on there, and then it might scroll through and have their Facebook link. It might have their Instagram handle or their Twitter handle as it scrolls through. So you have their logo and their preferred contact method, where you're going to find them online. And then it might go to the next person's stuff. And meanwhile, in the right-hand corner, you might have an event hashtag where someone in the background is uploading comments to these hashtags or pictures that people are taking as they're taking selfies at home, and hey, we're doing this thing online and we're engaging, and this is our logo in the background, and posting photos with that hashtag while you're streaming the event. I've been to some events where they do that in person, and it's absolutely cool. People will ask questions from the audience, and I'm not sure exactly what that might look like in a nonprofit fundraiser, but you could have, hey, go here, take out your phones. Yes, take out your phones this event. Go here. drop questions in the thing and we'll pull it up live and answer questions you might have about whatever is going on. So a lot of cool ways to do this.
Absolutely. I think it does require the nonprofit to get creative. I do not think if you have a gala every year and you have a keynote speaker and hors d'oeuvres and drinks, and then you share about your mission, if you just try to move that as it is all online, it's likely not going to work, right? Because we're missing the experience as an attendee of getting all dressed up and mingling and all those kind of things. But if you can just step outside the box just a little bit, think through the format of that event, how can we make it more interactive, and then do your research to find the right corporate sponsors to put that into place, I think you could deliver a really great event that no, it's not going to replace the real thing, right? But it does mean that you can still add that little piece of revenue to your budget, which then you're going to supplement with, and we won't even get into all that today, individual giving and monthly giving. And when you kind of work all those pieces together, I think this is the recipe to make the best out of a really hard situation that our nonprofit communities are in right now. I don't want to forget to mention what to do after the event. Because I do think that sets us apart from a lot of nonprofits. And listen, I know I was an ED. You are exhausted. You don't ever want to mention the name of the event again by the time the event is over. If we're lucky, we do that download in the office where everybody talks about what went wrong and what went right and what do we want to do differently. And that's all great. But very, very rarely do we go back to our sponsors. And again, I think that is really the key to getting repeat sponsors. Or, our business owners in our local community, they're friends, right? They talk to each other. And if somebody goes out of their way to make my experience as a sponsor an incredible opportunity for me, you better bet I'm going to tell my friends who own company X down the street, gosh, I sponsored that event and I got a ton of business, or this happened and that happened. So you want, like you said earlier, you want these company owners talking about you in a positive light. So what do you do after the event? You need to leave them with an impression of how valuable the investment was to them and to you. So that's going to look like some data. You're going to want to tell them about the event attendance, whether it was online or not. If you were sending people to see a registration or landing page that had their logo, you want to let them know how many people were on that page. Every website platform that I know of has this information built in. If for some reason yours does not, setting up Google Analytics is very easy. I have a video in my free resource library about how to set up Google Analytics if you need help in that. But one of the biggest things you can do to follow up with a sponsor is add them to your email list. And then once a quarter, update them about your work. So the last thing you want to do is ask them for money, get the money, do the event. They don't hear from you for a whole year. And then you ask them for money and you do the event, right? There's only so many times a business owner is going to go through that cycle with you. But if they've heard from you 2, 3, 4 times throughout the year about the work that you're doing, about how you're making the community better or safer, whatever it is your mission is, it's going to make it 10 times easier for you to get that next sponsorship. So get them on your email list. Make sure they're not getting solicited all year long. Just make sure they're getting those updates about your work. And that way, when you go back the next year, it's going to be a really easy yes for them.
I love the email list and the follow-up. And if you're listening to this and you're a new nonprofit, you absolutely must create many email lists.
Yes.
You don't throw them onto the big pile of email lists and everyone gets everything. You're going to have a different list for potential donors, active donors, major donors, volunteers, potential volunteers, sponsors, potential sponsors, past sponsors. You're going to have all these different lists. And yes, it's kind of a pain, but it's so worth it. You might have a business sponsor that's very excited about events, but they're doing their own thing. They might not be interested in the slightest in getting a volunteer email. And when they get their 5th one, they're just going to turn you off and not care about you anymore just because it's an inconvenience to them or it's annoying. Make sure that you have the people that you add to your email list on the correct list and one that's going to provide the best value. Andrea, what would you say to people in this time that we're in right now that are looking to do online events and how to gain sponsorships? What would you give them as a word of encouragement or a little direction?
Um, that's a big question, but a good question. I think we're finding that folks are feeling paralyzed, right? We are absolutely and no short of information online right now about what to do, where to turn to, which platform do I use? Do we have the auction? Do we not? So I think a couple things. First, I think um, I just posted this on my Facebook page and got a lot of engagement. The world is full of flat squirrels who couldn't make a decision, right? We've got to go in confidently about what we're going to do. There is never going to be one right solution. And just because nonprofit A down the street is doing their 5K online doesn't mean you have to take your 5K online. I think a really good strategy session with your board to talk about where are we in the budget, what do we need, and what are going to be the best ways to get there. We don't want to scramble and start asking everybody we know for money. And it may be the case that your event doesn't happen in 2020, and that is okay. It is okay, even if you've done that event for 20 years and this is the year you didn't do it, that is okay. Because what's going to happen is you're going to get creative. You're going to find new avenues that you didn't think about before. And we can get in such this routine where we just do what we do because that's what we've always done. And we never stop and kind of think outside the box of, is this event even working for us, right? You might find that you can raise that same $20,000 from a handful of major donors that you would have neglected if you were running that event. You're also going to see that all of that time you spent in event prep and training volunteers and working on all the logistics, you have all of that time available now to go and sit down face to face with donors and figure out what it is they're willing to invest in, right? What can we do to make sure that our mission is felt by more people? And I have a question I'm pulling out here. This is what I ask donors when I was fundraising and I was sitting down face to face with a donor. And this question doesn't get asked enough because we're so consumed with what we always do with our calendar. Well, this event's coming up and now we're moving into this mode and now it's holidays. This is what I ask donors. What are you so passionate about that you would invest a significant amount of money to change or grow? I think that question will open up a lot of doors for people if they will listen to what the donors are passionate about instead of pushing what we want them to give to. Maybe we're going to lose that $50 ticket revenue for that person, but what if they're willing to invest $5,000 in something else that we haven't had a conversation about? So my advice right now is, if you're going with the event, if it's going online, go all in. Use the sponsorship template that we're giving your listeners. Use this model that I've written about on what to do before, during, and after the ask, and give it everything you've got. And you're never going to know if it would have worked online if you didn't try it, right? But don't feel bad. Don't feel guilty about just scrapping the event and thinking outside the box a little bit. The other piece I would say is, as nonprofits, sometimes we're really uncomfortable with the technology, right? I see a lot of directors who are in the nonprofit world because they're passionate about the mission. They're passionate about the work and the people. And absolutely, that's the right reason to be in this industry. But they get really apprehensive about the tech piece. Well, I don't know what platform to use. Oh my gosh, they said we need an email list, but we don't have an email list. I saw this quote the other day, and I'm actually using it in an upcoming webinar that I'm leading. It says, the capacity to learn is a gift. The ability to learn is a skill. The willingness to learn is a choice. And I thought, Oh, that's good. That's good because it's good to keep learning. And I've learned a ton during these last few months of somebody who runs an online business. I've learned a ton about running an online business and then helping nonprofits move into that online space. That was a long answer. Sorry about that.
Here at the Nonprofit Architect, we allow and yet prefer long form answers. If you have a
Yay.
1 or 2 word answer that doesn't meet the mail, then it doesn't help anyway. Well, Andrea, I got to say, this has been phenomenal. I'm so glad to have you for our 40th episode. Where can people contact you?
Yeah, well, this has been a blast for me as well, and I could talk for hours and hours about nonprofit work, and I'm just passionate about helping them do what they do, but do it even better. So I've created a page on my own website for your listeners, so they don't have to remember all the places. So my website is 19design.net. That's the word one spelled out and nine spelled out. 19design.net, and if they go there /podcast. So 19design.net/podcast. They're going to get a free resource. This is not linked on my website, so we'll have to listen to this episode. I've linked a sponsorship template sample pack for the Nonprofit Architect podcast community. And so what they're going to see is a PDF guide that really kind of walks them through a little bit of what we talked about today, but I've created a one-page template that they can actually plug in their own information. It's designed using Canva, and they can plug in their own information and start soliciting those partnership opportunities using the model that we've talked about today. And then that guide also has some advice and some tips in it as well. So again, they can go to 19design.net/podcast, and they will see the link to download that PDF, which includes a Canva template that they can edit. Also would love to have folks jump on my email list, and they can find the opt-in there on that page. I send actionable advice about twice a month. Plus they'll be the first to know about new resources and new content that I publish. I provide monthly writing prompts for social media. So if you're stuck on what to say on your social media, every month I send out writing prompts for the month that are based on things like the National Day calendar, what's going on in the world, what's going on in your local community. It just helps get you past that writer's block and help you know what to say on your social media. So they can find that on the website, as well as links to my company on Facebook and LinkedIn. So it's 19design.net/podcast.
Value, endless value, right up until the very last moment. Thank you so much for being on the show, Andrea. And if you want to hear more episodes, hop on over to nonprofitarchitect.org or search Nonprofit Architect Podcast on Google. I think like the first 8 resources are me. So crushing the SEO, doing great things. Can't wait to hear from you all. Have a great rest of your day.